We are really excited for you guys to join us. We are, of course, enduring some of the COVID restrictions and not having our big gatherings. So we're not able to do our one-day in-person workshop, the Battleground to Breaking Ground workshop that we do around the state every year. And so we kind of came up with some different ideas that we thought would be neat to try out while we're kind of adapting and overcoming during this time. And one thing that we get a lot of questions about is when you get started, or even while you're actually in production, is how do you overcome some of the obstacles that you face, and what are those obstacles, and what keeps you moving forward? So I've asked some of our great friends of the program, some graduates of the program, some folks who have been with us from the beginning to join us today and to help kind of work through some of these. And we'll introduce them as we go along. But let's get started. So thanks for joining us. This is the Navigating the Obstacle course of Farming and Ranching, a producer's perspective. And I am your host, Erin Kimbrough, with the Texas Agribility and the Battleground to Breaking Ground project, which are both funded through USDA NEFA, and we are part of the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. Next slide, Ken. So who we serve active duty military, military veterans, pretty much all beginning farmers and ranchers, and individuals with disabilities, chronic health conditions, and or functional limitations, just a fancy word for meaning that you have something that ails you that makes farming and ranching more difficult. Next slide. So the way we do that, we do provide education and support. So we do training through online courses and in person. We have education in everything from business planning and management to agriculture production. We do actual hands-on learning workshops where you get your hands dirty, learn some skills, vaccinate cows or plant crops, learn to drive tractors, those kinds of things. We also offer disability support. We do that through our Agribility program. We do case management, farm and ranch assessments. We do equipment recommendations and accommodation recommendations for your facilities and for your places. And we also do resource connections and referrals to other programs to help you meet your goals. Next slide. So a lot of that education piece that we do is through the Battleground to Breaking Ground program. So it's a three-phase program, kind of like I mentioned there at the beginning. Our phase one is a one-day workshop. We usually hold 6 a year around the state, but again, to the restrictions, we are adapting. So during that one-day workshop, though, we've kind of taken our online content, or taken our in-person content, modified it online. So that's what you'll get through this workshop. Virtual workshop series. So we're going to cover rural business ideas, business planning. We'll talk about funding resources for farms and ranches and just general resources. If you want to move forward, you need to build your business plan for your agriculture operation. We do a program. It's a phase 2 online education. We actually do 16 weeks of business planning. We do individual education plans. And over that 16 weeks, as you build your business plan actually becomes your application to phase 3. And in phase 3, it's an 8 months. We do everything from agriculture production online courses, and we do require you to get 100 hours of hands-on education with mentors. So we do have applications open right now for the phase 2. If you want to apply for a tuition waiver, we have 15 spots available for that tuition waiver. Or you can just pay the tuition and waive the application process. And you can read all about that on our Agribility website. It's got a whole page on our training and those options and how to access that. Next slide, please. We do lots of webinars, kind of like we're doing today. So we have our own YouTube channel. Thankfully, Mackenzie created that for us, did a really good job. And so there's lots of different kind of topics. Those topics are usually recommended by our Battleground participants or Agribility clients, and just information that they need. So we do those, and and then we post them there on our YouTube channel. So you can subscribe to that and watch those. Next slide, please. Here's all of our contact. I really do suggest, if you can, join our newsletter. A lot of our information goes out through there, like when our applications are open, when we're taking, we've got new programs coming, we've got new resources that come out. So join that newsletter. Kinsey sends them out about once a month. We do have an events calendar, so if you're interested in our events, you can join and subscribe to that calendar. And if you just need general questions or you actually need to get a hold of us, there's our email there at the bottom. And don't worry about trying to write too fast. We are, like I said, we will post this, and we'll also send you out the presentations, I think, and stuff to your emails that you've registered with. Next slide, please, ma'am. All right, so we're actually going to get into the webinar now. So, like I said, the obstacles of farming and ranching, either getting started or continuing, can be vast, and they can be daunting at times, especially if you haven't come from an agriculture background. Maybe you're just getting started, something that really interests you, but you're not really sure how to get to what to do with that, or where to go. I've asked, like I said, some of our amazing supporters, some good friends of ours in the program, to share their experience. Doug, a good friend, I think presented with us way back when as a speaker, has been with us since 2014, 2015, I think. It's helped us really kind of shape. Yeah, he has really helped us shape like what the program does and how it looks. Has been a mentor to a lot of our participants. And Damon is a graduate from our Battleground program as well. And I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves and talk a little bit more about what they do. And he's a mentor for the program. And Mackenzie, if you guys have done anything with AgriBiility, Texas AgriBiility up to this far, you've probably visited with Mackenzie. She's our amazing program coordinator for AgriBiility, and she's also a producer. She's got some really unique perspectives on what farming and ranching looks like from kind of our side, the program coordinator side, but also from the participant side of working on a farm and ranch and having some obstacles to overcome. So with that, let's jump in. Next slide, Ken. We're going to start with my good friend Doug and let him have about 5 minutes to talk about who he is and how he's tied to us, how he gets roped into all these crazy things that we do, and a little bit how he got started. Hand it over to you, my friend.
5 minutes is a long time. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Doug Hobman, and my wife and I own Mesquite Field Farm. I am a U.S. Army veteran. I served in the Army National Guard and the regular Army for 11 years. I'm also a Desert Storm vet. After the military, I went into information technology and earned my bachelor's degree in computer information systems and network security. Spent 20 years in the industry, traveling the planet for 2 Fortune 100 companies, assisting in the development of some pretty large, complex systems and solutions related to not only computer systems, but to green building, green technology, and housing of the future. So entire cities that we built that were completely off-grid. Decided to get into agriculture, always wanted to get into agriculture, and I think there's another section where we'll go into that, but I'll bounce it over to our next presenter.
All right, thanks, my friend. All right, Damon, you want to jump in here?
All right, hi everybody, I'm Damon Cleeton. My wife and I, Sine, own Cleeton's 4E Farms in Kempner, Texas. We're right outside of Fort Hood. My background is I grew up in Gillespie County, so I've always been around agriculture, peach orchards, truck farms, things like that. So spent 18 years doing that. Had to get away from it for a little while, so I joined the National Guard and then got my commission and went active duty. Stayed away for about 23 years doing logistics management and healthcare administration in the Army. When I retired, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? So, well, I guess agriculture wasn't so bad after all, so we went back into it. We have a little piece of land out here by the Lampasas River. We work on 7 acres. We have a nursery. and we also do a lot of produce farming out here. I tell you what, I have to hand it to the Battleground to Breaking Ground program. It was a big reason why I continued to do this, and it kind of grounded me back in what I needed to do. So I just wanted to put that little punch in there. It is a very good program, and it has definitely changed my life, and it has changed my family's life. So I'll turn it back over after that.
You can't make me cry at the beginning, Damon. You gotta wait till the end. Thank you. Well, you guys are always amazing, and the program is what it is because of you guys and your heart for what you do. So we're always grateful for everything you do and everything that you are. All right, Ken, do you want to jump in, introduce yourself?
Sure. As Erin said, my name is Mackenzie Thomas. I'm a program coordinator for Texas Agribility. It is a nationwide project, and we have the Texas chapter of the project here based out of College Station. And so I'm the program coordinator for that project. I actually started out as an intern when I was 18. I had a car accident. I grew up in agriculture, came from a very agriculture family. We had cattle. I showed cows in high school. We had a hay operation in East Texas. And when I was 18, I had a car accident, so I acquired a disability. And because of that, kind of saw a different perspective of what it's like to, be on a farm or be in a rural area and have some obstacles to overcome. So I actually started college at Texas A&M in a wheelchair. I was in a wheelchair for about 5 years. So that brought its own challenges. I kind of found out about Texas Agribility while I was in college at A&M. And so I asked if I could intern there just because I thought it was a neat project. And so I interned for about 1.5 years, I think. And whenever I graduated, they had an opening and asked me if I'd be interested in coming on full time. So that's kind of how I got to be where I am today. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, one of the hardest things I think you'll get us to do is talk about ourselves. So we got a little bit of time. They did really good, reaching kind of blowing through there and telling us about them, and we'll actually get into kind of the nitty gritty of their farms and ranches and what they do. One thing I probably should have done is introduce myself a little bit too. So I'm Erin Kimbrough, program coordinator, director for the Battleground programs, kind of the education piece of that. I'm married to a former Marine who's also a first responder, and we currently do grass-fed beef. We kind of dabble in sheep and goats. We have done chickens. We do some Yopon tea. And so we're all producers. We're all familiar with some of the challenges and that go along with farming and ranching, but we're also a lot familiar with the rewards that come with it, and just the I don't know, I would say the wonder that goes with just raising livestock, getting to, at the end of the day, really enjoy the fruits of your labor. We really enjoy what we do, and we love helping you guys kind of achieve your goals. Probably our favorite thing about this program. So we are gonna go ahead and jump into our questions. One thing I do want to note is we do have this chat feature. So down at the bottom of your screens, you should have it looks like a little chat box. And you are welcome to type questions in there as we go along. Like I said, we'll make sure to save some time so you guys can visit with our wonderful presenters either throughout, towards the end, depends on how we're doing on time. So we want it to be the most helpful for you. So please utilize the chats. You utilize when we let you unmute your microphones and ask questions so that we can kind of tailor this to what it is that you need and why you're here. So we did have one question about the program, the Battleground program, and about doing bees. The one great thing I think about the Battleground program is that we are not singularly focused on any one area of production. We kind of tailor it through our wonderful mentors and our kind of plethora of online production courses to just about every enterprise that I can think of out there. I haven't had any full-time like cricket farmers. I think we did have some worm farmers, but that usually goes in with our vegetable production guys. We've had llamas, we've had buffaloes and alpacas. Then we've had, of course, traditional cattle, sheep, goats, vegetable production. But we've had herbs. We've had folks doing floriculture, folks doing food forest and permaculture design. So lots of different things that we do. So don't let that stop you if you're interested in the program. So we're going to go ahead and jump back to our speakers real fast, and I'll address some of these questions in the chat, and then we can address them again here after we get this first question answered. But we'll start with Doug. So the first question goes, what barriers to farming and ranching have you faced, and how you overcame those?
Yeah, so when we first found the program, we kind of stumbled into Aaron and the NRCS agents in San Antonio at a rodeo. And my wife and I had not yet figured out what we were going to do on the farm. We owned the land, we had been working on infrastructure, but we really didn't know how we were going to farm. So we started with a grass-fed beef operation, and we were paying for all of this out of pocket. We had no idea that there were programs out there available to not only military veterans, but anyone, beginning farmers and ranchers getting into agriculture. So early on in the program, we used to do the presentation of how to start a grass-fed beef farm or ranch, and our cost was $168,000 out of pocket to start it without any assistance from anyone else. And in that deck, we talked about, here's all these great programs that are available from organizations like the NRCS, the EQIP programs, things like that, that would have helped us install our infrastructure, and we wouldn't have to pay out of pocket for that cost. So one of the biggest things is understanding what programs exist and what funding opportunities are available to you. And this program actually brings all of them into one room. If you get into the program, you're going to sit in front of all of these people, and they're going to tell you what those programs are. The second thing I would say is we're going to learn by doing. A lot of people through the years in this program, they get stuck in analysis paralysis. So they look at it, they review it again, they rewrite it, they review it again, and they continue going down that path. And I do the same thing. So at some point, you're going to have to just step off and do it, and you'll learn as you go some of the mistakes. Now, if you're in the program, you have access to all of the other people that are in the program. So there's a huge knowledge base to draw from in farming and ranching and gardening, urban farming, aquaponics, hydroponics. There's a lot of people doing this that we have access to. So once you're in the program and you're talking to everyone, your knowledge base just expands. Focus your efforts and your education on the organizations that are going to teach the way you want to farm. And what I mean by that is Battleground's going to put you in touch with all of the different organizations that can provide you funding, that can provide you assistance of any kind, and even all the way down to some of the very specific things you need if you're raising livestock or poultry, kind of traditional ag and non-traditional ag. But there are other organizations. There are permaculture organizations or Holistic Management International, or some of you are following regenerative ag practices like Joel Soliton, Gabe Brown, those guys that are doing different types of cover cropping. All of those neat things you need to focus on in the direction that you want to build your organization. And I think the biggest thing is don't hesitate to ask. A lot of us, if we don't come from an agricultural background, we tend to not ask questions. In ag, you can't know everything. It's just not possible. There's way too many things out there, too many variables. You've got to talk to people and you've got to ask questions. I think that's it.
Totally agree, my friend. And yes, yeah, I think that's a great point, is that I've asked questions of probably every participant that we have, because again, there's so many ways to do things, and not any piece of land is ever exactly like the piece of land that you're standing on, even maybe 30 feet from you. So make sure that you connect with the resources and learn from one another. So don't be afraid to ask questions. There really aren't stupid questions. And I don't think I've met any of our participants in the program who aren't willing to help someone else as they move along. Even some of the ones who seem really grouchy and unapproachable from the beginning, by the time you actually start to talk about the things that they're interested in, man, they're your best friends, and you'll be cow shopping together before you know it. So, all right, Mr. Damon, do you want to speak to some of your barriers that you've faced through your farming and anything that you've overcome?
Sure. Just to kind of springboard off of what Doug said, you have to go into it with a plan. But at the same time, you have to be willing to take that risk and get out and do it, because the hands-on portion of it becomes part of your analysis. Without that, it's just textbook data and it's useless to you. When I retired and first started out, we tore up little strips out in the pasture, cleaned it up, and we were doing about probably about 10 feet wide and 20 foot long little sections, trying to find out what varieties and what produce would grow here. And we did that for 3 years. And, I learned some valuable stuff from that. There's what you want to do and there's what you can do with the piece of dirt you have. So that's one very important thing. So you have to balance that out. The other thing that was hard for me to overcome is you have to learn to eat the elephant one bite at a time. With the military and that mentality, to me, it's kind of like we got to accomplish a mission and do it. With farming, it's a little bit different from my perspective. It is easy to tear up ground, plow it, cultivate it, and plant it, but it's another thing to keep it maintained, go out and do your scouting for insects and diseases. And then when it comes to harvest time, it's a whole new set of problems because it becomes a manpower issue. So that's one thing that we had to look at to begin with, was how big are we going to get? What's our storage capacity that we can keep stuff put up in before we take it to market? So, we've gotten to the point where we're operating solely off the farm now. We kind of got it where we have scaled up little by little. I've actually gone out and hired some high school kids to help me out. And it's very hard to find labor, and it's extremely hard to find good labor. So that's one obstacle you have to look at, especially if you're in the row cropping and the truck farming side and you're doing a lot of hand picking. You can't do it by yourself. I have 4 kids and my wife is a full-time nurse, and it's a job for all of us. Plus, we opened up a nursery about 4 months ago. So there's another piece of the puzzle, but it kind of springboards. It was a natural flow of transitioning to the nursery side, because it was a way for us to get transplants, but it turned into another revenue stream for us. So sometimes you look at something as a barrier and it actually turns into a new opportunity. So keep that in mind. But like I say, you got to figure out what you can do with that piece of land. A lot of people have aspirations of what they can do, but you can't get blood out of a turnip. So you have to come to grips and make realistic plans of what you can do where you're at. And that's probably one of the most important lessons I think I learned and what I had to overcome. It was an internal thing versus an external thing.
Yeah, and that's great advice. One of our ag economists says the most expensive thing that you will ever do is try and fight Mother Nature. So you might be able to do it, but if it's something that doesn't want to grow there, it's going to be expensive to get it done. You can make it sometimes, but it might cost you. So that's great.
So
all
Aaron,
right. Yes, sir.
Aaron.
So
Damon brought up a good point, and that's it was something I thought of earlier and I wanted to mention, and he absolutely nailed it. Your piece of soil is going to be different than everyone else's. So when you start looking at these models of how to farm, for example, I followed Joel Salatin for quite some time, and Joel's philosophy is brilliant, but Joel's soil is not the same as mine, and his climate is not the same as mine. So you cannot just pick up somebody else's platform and implement it on your place. It's not going to work. Pieces of it will function, other pieces will not. You've really got to adapt and learn on your piece of soil those things that will function in your space that may not function in Joel's, or vice versa.
That's great. I think one of the great points thinking on that is those chicken tractors that Joel Salatin builds, which they're great. They really are up north sometimes, but I know
in Virginia.
Yes, that's right. Yes, but if you sometimes when you cover a box in sheet metal down here in the South, you're just going to make a little chicken roaster, and it just doesn't work the same. So that's great. Making sure that you kind of figure out what works for you and what works on your place. So with that, Ken, let's let you talk to that as well. So barriers to farming and ranching that you've seen clients face and had to overcome, maybe some interesting ways that they've done that.
Yeah, so I have a little bit different perspective maybe than the, we have cattle and leased land and things like that, and there's definitely things that we've had to overcome. But as far as the perspective of from an agribility program coordinator, we've seen a lot of clients have some pretty significant barriers. We look at a lot of like physical barriers, but we also look at, barriers to gaining access to land or equipment or capital to purchase equipment, especially equipment that maybe meets needs for things that they're dealing with physically. So I just have some examples of barriers that seem pretty significant. There's definitely, we help a lot of clients that have lots of different types of needs, lots of different severity. These are just some of the bigger things that we see and have pictures of and things to show. But I'm just going to show a couple examples. So this individual had some paralysis, and they were a cattle and hay farmer up in Northeast Texas area. Had an accident, became paralyzed, but they still have their cattle operation. They were actually an ag science teacher in a high school, so very active, had a lot of involvement with agriculture in many aspects, not just for their 9-to-5 job, but their farm and ranch on the weekends. So this individual needed access to his tractor to be able to feed, cut hay, rake hay, all those things, and that was a significant barrier for him. So we looked at his operation, looked at what his needs were, what his tasks were, and recommended a tractor lift for him. So you can see in this picture there's a seat, and it goes down to his level. He can transfer into that, and then it lifts him up into the tractor, which is also put on hand controls. So he's able to access his tractor, get on and off safely, and operate it with his hands without any real safety concerns there. We also had to look at the terrain of where, places maybe you couldn't get in a tractor, or he had to work on some fence and things like that. So this is another piece of equipment we recommended for him to address that barrier. And it is a standing tracked wheelchair. The text is kind of over the track part, but hopefully you can see that. But it stands up so that he can, get at eye level and work on fence, or look over the hood of a pickup, or, get and check oil in his tractor and things like that, which is also good for his circulatory system and his health in general. But it can go anywhere on his place outside of his house that he needs to go, that maybe he doesn't, it's not that easy to get to on a big piece of equipment like a tractor. And this is another example of someone who had some paralysis, but is still able to transfer on and off of their tractor. They actually worked with the local FFA in the area, and they built hand controls for this individual, as well as the grab bars and extended steps, so that he could access his tractor independently, and then, operate it with hand controls. And the unique thing about this one is because it was something that he worked with a local FFA chapter on, he was able to complete that project for only about $30 of scrap metal. And Aaron actually worked with them to coordinate all of that. So just a few examples.
Yes, yeah, they're really neat. Our local FFA chapter actually did the install and delivery on this tractor, and so it was a great project to get to connect youth who were interested in agriculture and actually let them do a service project that really impacted a producer's life. Because before we made this, we did the recommendations and they made the modifications to this equipment. He wasn't able to access his equipment, so they had a hay and cow calf operation, and so his son would have to come and do that work for him. But after the modifications they made, it made him independent, and he was able to continue to work on his operation. So some really neat things I think that we do. So let's pause here for just a second and take some questions, and you guys can just jump in where you think you fit or you have some advice. So one of the questions I thought was neat, and one that we get out a lot of, is starting out. They say, should we just focus on one avenue or farming or ranching? And my advice in the chat was, we do think it's good to have somewhat of a narrow focus, somewhat to kind of focus on, but diversity is also good. So if you guys can just speak a little bit to what your advice for someone kind of starting out would be on kind of selecting those enterprises.
Yeah, so I would look at, this is Doug, it's really important to focus on whatever you want to start with, whether it's going to be beef or row crops or urban farming or whatever you're going to start on, niche crops. But you have to, just like you would in traditional business, you have to have a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan and understand where you intend on growing, because all of that infrastructure has to be put in place. So while you're focusing on, ours was beef first, so while we're focusing on our external fencing and our cross fencing and our pastures and how we're going to set up our paddocks, we also needed to understand, well, we eventually want to put in high tunnels, and where are those going to go? Orchards, where are those going to go? Are the fields and the infrastructure we're placing in for cattle going to impact those? Because we're a small 20-acre farm. So a lot of our land overlaps into the other revenue streams. So it's really important to, yes, keep a narrow focus on, if you're starting with beef, your entire beef operation, but at the same time, you have to plan for the future.
Agreed. Damon, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think another important part too is you really have to take a hard look and put your capabilities against your resources that you have at the time, because it's real easy to do stuff, go out and buy fancy stuff, but you have to scale that back. You don't want to outpace yourself and throw yourself down a rabbit hole that you don't know if you're going to get out of or not. So take it little by little. Probably 90% of my equipment outside of my tractor is used equipment. It's stuff that I've built. And it serves a lot of different purposes other than what I do, but it ties into all my other revenue streams. We have a small orchard that takes up about a half an acre. That was more of a personal decision to do since I grew up doing that with peaches. The nursery, on the other hand, it was kind of personal, but it was also brought into consideration as a labor-saving device, because when you have trays and trays of tomato seeds that, you have to get them started and everything else, if you don't have the time, sometimes it's better to outsource it. So my wife had always wanted a nursery. We got her the nursery license, set her up a small nursery, but it was a way for us to go out and to be able to buy plants wholesale for our transplants, which saves us a lot of time, and time is money. But, that kind of springboarded in with about 2 weeks after we opened, the COVID hit. And come to find out, there was a run on all kinds of vegetable plants. Well, we had a lot of stuff going in the greenhouse. We had a lot of stuff we had already pre-ordered. So it was a way where we could expand our revenue stream. We could meet other people's needs because, it's a small community. I hate box stores, not the people in them, but, they just don't know how to take care of plants. So that was a way for us to get people good, healthy plants, but it was also filling a gap that was out there. So that turned into one of our biggest revenue makers for this past quarter, which surprised me because we weren't going to go big with it, but it naturally tied in. People would come out to get vegetables, or they'd come out to get plants, and they'd usually leave with bulk. So that was an added benefit for us. So, if it feels right, kind of go with it, try it out, and sometimes you'll have good results with it.
That's great advice. Yeah, I think it's always good to try things that you enjoy. And to both your points, Damon and Doug, the book knowledge versus the hands-on knowledge is very different. So it might look like a great idea or seem like a great idea, or you maybe went to your grandparents' farm at one point and thought goats were super fun and cute, and then in reality you get a couple of them home, they won't stay in your fences, they've eaten your neighbor's backyard and all of their veggies, and you just hate them. So the more experience you can get on the small scale, I think really the better. So all right, well, I think that covers quite a bit of kind of the advice, and even kind of leads us, I think, into this next piece of the webinar. Is tell me about your marketing plans and how you chose the products that you sell and how you sell them. Like we kind of spoke a little bit about diversifying your business, but you both have very interesting marketing models, I think. So, Doug, let's start with you and let you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I came from the IT world, so web and social media was something that I always knew the importance of and where it was going to go. And Melissa, my wife, works for iHeart, so she's all about marketing, and you can see some of the marketing classes that we've done. This is really one of our big pet peeves. As far as marketing, you need brand consistency. So whatever you're setting up your farm as, like ours is Mesquite Field Farm, you need a logo. You need to understand what that logo means, every piece of it, and you need to use it everywhere. So Facebook, Instagram, website, even word of mouth, business cards, emails, templates, all of those things should have your brand on them. You need to make it as easy as possible for your customers to purchase from you. So if you're setting up an online store, you need to make sure that they're 2 clicks away from being able to buy something. If it takes more than 2 clicks, they're gone. All of our numbers over the years in social media and in online purchasing on the IT side of the house have proven that our attention spans are pretty short. So you've got to get them in the first 2 clicks or you're out. They're going to go somewhere else. You need to set up an online store. If you're setting up a store, you need to definitely expand your payment options, be able to take, the last thing in the world you want is to someone to try and buy your product and you to not be able to take their money. If the whole idea for your farm is to provide nutrient-dense food and to make a living off of it, then you need to be able to take every form of payment that you can take. Maintain a consistent presence with your customers. Don't let them forget about you. There are thousands upon thousands of things that are vying for your customers' time, and you need to make sure that you hold them. So if you are setting up a newsletter or you're doing emails to a customer base, or you're trying to establish a customer base, you need to do posts. You need to post frequently. So in a week's time, I would say your first post would be an education post, how you farm, videos or pictures of your farms and chores, because people today really don't understand where their food comes from. They think it comes from a big box store, and they don't understand what it takes to actually grow it. So the things that you on a farm consider are normal things are not normal to the average consumer. So taking pictures of feeding your animals, moving your animals, working your crops, cleaning the rows, planting, they need to understand how that works. So that first post would be that. Your second post, if you are selling things, would be an inventory post that talks to them about new product releases, availability of product, when you're doing drops, where you're doing your drop-off points at. The third post would be like a farm update. Here's a picture of something we're adding to the farm, some new revenue stream or some new thing that we're working on. Your fourth post might be something like a recipe that tells them how to utilize your product. And your fifth post would be DIYs. So like Damon said, the majority of things on his farm are not purchased. He built those. So people need and really want to understand how to build things to help themselves out. And they would much rather build it themselves than have to go out and buy it in most cases. So that's the first part of that marketing. As you establish your farm, for example, our farm is called Mesquite Field Farm because we're covered up in mesquite trees and we like them. But the mistake that I made was for the first 4 years, I didn't do anything with mesquite beans. Well, mesquite beans are a product that can be sold. They work as cattle feed for my own livestock, but they also work as jellies and jams, flours. So use what's on your farm. You don't have to grow that. It's already there. The funds that you make from that revenue stream can be used to build other desired revenue streams. Make sure that your desired revenue streams can be revenue generators. Make sure that you're going to make a profit from those before you start. As Damon stated, while we were in San Antonio, before we moved to the farm, we modeled everything in our backyard. So we had chickens, chicken tractors, couldn't do cows. Of course, the homeowners association wouldn't have liked that very much, but all of the things we were growing, we grew on a small scale to understand how they functioned, how much time it took, what it cost to support those revenue streams. Then build a multi-year plan for that and understand how to expand out, start modifying the infrastructure to meet those needs of your multi-year plan. That's when you start looking at the programs like EQIP from NRCS that provides you high tunnels or livestock watering or cross fencing. And then how do you sell your products, right? Market, you have to market to what your customer thinks is important. Where we fail many times as farmers and ranchers is that we sell people what we think they want, not what they actually want. So we struggle trying to get in front of them to make them understand what we have. And what we really need to do is answer the question of what do they want. Not what's important to us, what's important to them. Just because I wouldn't buy a $20 chicken from someone doesn't mean that one of my customers won't, and they do frequently. But you have to solve the problem for them. Otherwise, they don't need your product. They can get it somewhere else. This could be presented as anything from providing healthy foods for the family, or giving them a gift of a stress-free dinner, or if you sell flowers, you may give them the gift of a beautiful space, not just someone's birthday, but you've got to figure out how to meet a need that they have in their environment. And we have to figure that out. So ask the question, ask your customers, what do you want? What do you see? What do you need? It's not necessarily just what's available in the industry.
Great response. Yeah, and I think I know a lot of us don't like really particularly talking to people and kind of going out on that limb, but you know, you just even having the conversations when we started with our grass-fed beef, just having the conversations with folks that I ran into, what does grass-fed mean to you, and would you purchase it, and how much would you purchase it for, and why is that important? And talking with other producers who did similar things and what their customers were doing when we were getting started really helped kind of shape what it was that we were going to do. So thanks for that, Doug. All right, Damon, you've got a really interesting marketing plan, I think, too, and the ways that you sell your products and choose them. So can you talk about that a little bit for me?
Sure. I guess I'm in a lucky situation where I am being right around Fort Hood, because I have for lack of a better term, a constant supply of customers from different ethnic backgrounds and cultures. So I get to have fun growing a little bit of everything. And I think that's one of the great parts for me. But you still have to know your customers, what they're going to buy. Like Doug said, you know, you have to know your market. But on the other hand, there's some things I try that I do it because I like it or I grew up with it. This year we did yellow wax beans. And I hadn't seen them in years. I got a hold of some seed, and that turned out to be a big hit, because people would come out to the farm and they'd go, "Oh, you have yellow wax beans. I haven't had those since Aunt Margaret used to make pickled bean salad in the 80s. And they were scooping them up. So sometimes when you go out on a limb, take a little bit of a risk, you know, it pays off. But, you know, it's all depends on where you are and what people want. Because I'm on the periphery of a large urban area where there is not a lot of row cropping or farming. There's more cattle ranching and hay going on in my neck of the woods. I kind of stand out as unique. So that's one thing that draws people into me. The other thing is, like Doug said, you have to have a strong online presence. I get on there, you know, 2, 3, 4 times a day, post different pictures just to keep people engaged. The kids are out there harvesting. I take pictures of the kids, put them up. You know, 4E Farms is named after all 4 of our kids, Emma, Ellen, Eric, and Ida. So people kind of like that, but that it's a family farm, and it kind of builds that mythos of the old family farm. And that is a major selling point. The other thing is people love to come out here and see where their food comes from. We were going to farmers markets. We stopped that, especially because we have a 15-month-old baby, so it's kind of hard to tote kids and everything. You have to move around. But you know, my wife and I were surprised to learn, like Doug said, people really don't know where their food comes from. So we kind of try to educate the customers whenever we can. And right there on the screen, that's a picture of Joe. He's from cohort 7 from the Battleground program. We get people come through all the time with kids, and the kids have never seen where carrots come from. So Joe took them out. They were digging carrots. I mean, I tell you what, for 4 little kids, they were just laughing and giggling and having a good time. So, you know, the more you can build your business to be family friendly, if that's what you're looking for, the better you'll do. You tie your family in with their family, and that kind of creates a bond, which makes people want to come back and see you. The other side of that education is, and especially with a marketing plan, we have it written in there, that ties back in with the nursery side, is if people are out looking at a squash plant and they have never grown squash, and we had a lot of that this year, they don't know what to do with it. So it's like, okay, hey, let's walk about 200 feet up here. I will show you what squash plants look like. I'll show you how to harvest them, and boom, it's right there. And, we make a lot of sales that way, because it kind of takes the fear out of people trying something new that they've never done, or if they're not from that agricultural background. It puts them at ease. And we tell everybody, if you ever have any questions, the business number is my cell phone number. I will answer it. I will message you back on Facebook. If you have any problems or questions, let me know. We have wholesale accounts with the nursery. So we bring things in like 40-pound bags of potting soil, compost, things like that. And we have better prices than the box store, because I operate totally outside. I don't have to worry about overhead and paying the light bill and all this stuff. So it kind of makes it a one-stop shop. People come out, they can learn, they can get what they need to grow. We had a friend of ours, he's a disabled vet, just got separated from the military. He is a carpenter. He built a lot of planter boxes, and he was like, hey, do you think you could sell some of these? Well, that's another line we never even thought of. But it helps us out, it helps another veteran out, and it helps these folks out that want to grow. So, sometimes people know what they want, but sometimes you have to educate them, because maybe they don't always know what they want. So education is a big part of marketing, and getting people used to you being comfortable doing what they're doing, and that keeps them coming back. So I'll leave it at that.
That's great advice. Thank you, guys. Yeah, and that's one thing I think Greg always talks about, is it's one thing to grow it, but to make sure that you can sell it and make sure that there's a need for it. And both of you have done a great job in identifying what your customers need or want, and educating them on why it's important and why supporting their local farms and ranches is important, and then getting them what they need and want. And so I'm grateful for that. So we are running a little short on time, but I think it's important. I want to make sure that we give you a minute or two to talk about your skills in the military and how that impacted how you operate your farms and ranches. And then we'll let Kinsey close us with kind of how the programs help our farmers and ranchers and what we can do, and then we'll talk about our survey. But Damon, I'm going to let you go first this time. Kins, I know I'm messing up your order just a little bit, but let you talk a little bit about your skills in the military and how that impacted on your farm or ranch and what you do.
I started out in the National Guard as 11 Bravo, so the skills that I learned from digging foxholes really pay off in farming. And then after that, after I got my commission, I became a healthcare administrator, and I specialized in logistics management. So that's one really big thing that I'm grateful for, is I use supply chain management every day, whether I'm buying from wholesalers, whether I'm doing inventories in the nursery, with planning out what I'm planting, when I need to harvest it, how much I can handle at one time, how I'm going to get it from point A to point B, doing the pricing and everything. So that background is super for me, because farming is logistics. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
100% agree. And make sure you guys, if you're applying for that Battleground program, remember that when I ask you that on your applications, is what business planning skills do you have, finances, operational management, all of those kinds of things. Remember your skills that you learned in the military. Those are imperative to what you do as farmers and ranchers. Doug, you want to talk about your skills in the military?
So I think Damon's correct. I was a combat armed soldier too, so I was a 13 Mike, and they definitely taught me how to dig foxholes and bunker complexes. So the skills that you have are amazing, and the military teaches you a lot of things. And I'll end it with a joke after this, but my first job in the military was in combat arms. My second job, I was an air traffic controller. So I started to understand flows and how process flows function in moving equipment from point A to point B, but also how to put things in a priority. So which ones had a higher priority than others. All of those skills and your attention to detail are needed in managing your farms, whether it be row crops or nursery crops or cattle. Your attention to detail is going to allow you to see problems coming before they really impact your entire environment, or give you a little more lead time to find a solution to that problem before it becomes a catastrophe. And I think those things everyone gets in the military. So if you pay attention to what's going on around you and focus on the cycles that occur in your farm or ranch, you'll start to understand why your grasses are growing the way they are, why these weeds are coming back, why is this particular plant here and not in other parts of my fields. And the crops the same way. I notice the pests that are coming in. What am I going to grow to give the pests something else to eat rather than my crop? What companion plant am I going to use? So all of those skills in the military, what they taught you through each of your basic training phases and the AITs, they taught you all those skills that you need to run a farm. And the joke at the end of that is there's no one better to be in agriculture than a military veteran who is willing to work all hours of the day and night, never give up on solving a problem, and never get paid either.
Amen. Yes. Yeah, I think all of your careers taught you to work in that and crazy, ridiculous environments with sometimes as little as possible to make the most out of it. So I think that's farming 101. And to all of our veterans that are active duty, thank you for your service. And you guys mean the world to us. So thank you for what you do. And we're grateful to be able to give a little back through helping you achieve your dreams of farming and ranching. So with that, Ken, you want to wrap us up on what our programs do and how we assist with overcoming obstacles at farming and ranching?
Sure. So I know Erin touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but basically the overall idea is that we have a lot of different ways that we assist farmers and ranchers to overcome these obstacles, whether that's with business planning assistance or equipment needs and recommendations or education. And so, basically we look at the individual, look at what their needs are, and kind of look at ways that we can assist them in meeting those needs. So that may look like a farm and ranch assessment. This is actually Damon at his assessment we did for him. Where we can come out and look at the operation, kind of like I talked about before, look at tasks, look at things that, may need help with, and then make recommendations on from there for equipment or different ways to do tasks or just DIY things that, maybe don't cost a lot of money, but can make things easier for you so that you can continue to do your job for years in the future. We also have workshops like this. We do some farm safety stuff. And so it can range anything from education to assistance with equipment and recommendations to connecting you to other resources that might be able to help with those things, or financial resources, or just programs like the Battleground program and workshops and education like we're doing today. So it can look a lot of different ways. That the big thing is just to kind of reach out and let us know what your needs are and ways that we might be able to help, and we will try to help you out.
Awesome. So I want to tell Doug and Damon and Mackenzie, thank you guys so much. One, thank you for all that you do, because like I said, you're not just farmers and ranchers, you're also veterans. You guys do so much for the community, and I'm just grateful for who you are and like I said, what you do. And I'm grateful that you're farmers and that you choose. I always think it's incredible that our veterans who have given so much, sacrificed so much for our country, still are willing to do more by working so hard to feed it, because it is not a easy road you guys have chosen to haul, but it's something that I think is so incredibly important, because I like to eat and I think everybody else does too. So thank you guys for all that you do, and we'll hang out for just a little bit more. If you guys have other questions, you're again still welcome to use that chat box or unmute yourselves. And thanks for attending, and hopefully we'll see you guys again on Thursday, and be checking for that survey link, because we really do need that feedback, really want that feedback from you, so we can continue to do programs like this.